Before we begin, thank you very much to Alpha Trion with a message from Primus for pitching in over on Ko-fi. The message from Primus reads, "Humans, I have taken the liberty of translating Primus's sacred words into modern English. How the scrap is this a prime? Leo is a worse joke than Waspinator, and that traffic light guy I don't care about. No, I won't take him. Humans, he is now a rubber decoy figure. Bye." We're spinning this really weird narrative around Leo Prime in the shoutouts now. This is bizarre. Okay, well, number one, thank you very much for pitching in. It supports the channel, lets me keep doing this every day for you guys. But also, his name is Signal Lancer, and you will put respect on his name. Okay, so it's the first of the month. It's time for another monthly Q&A. So, if you're unfamiliar with the Q&A videos, just in case, because there's always someone who is. So, you'll see messages, you'll see like a pin at the top giving you the basic rules. You are allowed to ask any one question that you wish of me. It does not have to be Transformer related, just something you are curious about. As long as it's within TOS and it covers all the other basic rules. You are only allowed one question. Please make it a short answer question. Do not ask me to come up with entire rosters right off the top of my head. Do not ask me about topics we've covered a million times and I always have the same answer for. Your gun Megatrons, your Gundams, etc. It's all there in the top pin. But basically, most should know by now how this works. So, we are going to start off with the most recent one. Do you think the listing for Leader Class New Prime could be a smaller Primus to go with the upcoming Unicron Soldier, or maybe even a unique way of releasing a frame system for Nexus Prime? The only two guesses I have right now. Thanks for everything you do. You're the best. Thank you. Thank you. I genuinely have no idea what New Prime could be. It's a complete mystery to me. What I really want it to be is an alternative to Star Optimus Prime, because while I do like the idea of if Optimus Prime has to be the 13th Prime, at the very least, we have this neat little narrative of him regaining his divinity as Star Convoy. But that said, I'm not really, like, crazy about him being in the 13th. I would much rather New Prime be, like, some kind of, New Prime for the 13. Something a little bit different than just, oh, hey, Optimus Prime again. Because I don't like the narrative of Optimus Prime in the 13. I think it takes away from the Rodimus Prime Chosen One narrative. But it'll be what it is. I genuinely have no idea what the new Prime is going to be. I definitely don't think it's going to be a Primus, though. Because I think the Unicron Soldier is going to be, like, way more tame than we're assuming it to be. Did the Beast Wars characters have to shout, maximize, terrorize before they transformed? And if that was what they had to do, at what point did the Cybertron formers envelop from having to do so? So the space between G1 and Beast Wars is very, like, nebulous. Like, there's really nothing going on in there that's concrete. The stories are weird, and most told so far are non-canonical. The transformation code is supposed to be like, yes, they have to say that before they transform as some kind of security feature. So they are not, like, forcibly transformed or something, or transformed during a situation where they shouldn't be. Because that goes back to them, like, hiding amongst wild animals rather than vehicles. But that's just me, like, fanficking, honestly. It really is just speculation. And we saw, they only really said the transformation call, like, season 1, a few times season 2, but they really did lighten up on it in later seasons. How do I feel about Has Been Hotel getting greenlit for a 5th season and apparently being the series finale? So I'm okay with that. A 5-season run, even with, like, a shorter episode count than most seasons, is still a pretty respectable thing for a cartoon that started as an indie cartoon. And I think 5 seasons is appropriate. Here's the thing. As popular as it is, I genuinely feel like It is ending exactly where they want it to end. As popular as it is, as much money as it makes for Amazon, I'm reasonably sure they would want to continue it for as long as Vivzy Pop was willing. So if they're ending it at 5 seasons, I'm going to assume it's not an Amazon choice. And that means they're ending it right where they know they should be ending it. And that's probably for the best. Like anything that's stretched out beyond that starts getting the risk of running out of story ideas, jumping the shark, etc., etc. I respect the choice to end it before it gets exhausted or before it becomes less than what it is. And I feel the same thing about like Hell of a Boss ending at season 4. I'm looking forward to all of it. I absolutely am. But yeah, like I think it opens up space to do more stuff in the Helliverse. I don't think that's the end of exploring that universe. I feel like after like Hell of a Boss finishes up, you're going to see announcement of a new series, very likely it's still in the Helliverse. And that 5th season is going to be like a bleed over to get, so the Helliverse is still on and relevant while the new show gets established. That's my assumption right now. When we get the inevitable Smash Brothers movie, do you think Sonic is going to appear or is he going to be in a sequel to that Smash film? I don't think either. I do not think either. Like Illumination is handling the Nintendo movies right now. Paramount's handling the Sonic movies. You would have to get competing movie corporations to agree to that licensing, and that's not going to happen. It's really not going to happen. Keep in mind, Sonic is a guest character in Smash, even if he did play a part in the storyline once. But that said, Lauren going to the water, that's not a good sign. Yeah, it ain't happening. I really don't think it's happening. The AI answers are incredibly stupid. If Cybertron Jetfire was to get a new toy, what size class do you think he would be, and how many redeco retools could be done with it? So, size-wise is difficult. Like, I don't imagine them doing it any bigger than a leader class toy, because the character is not a huge deal, and he doesn't have any need for combination gimmickry, the way that Armada Jetfire does. So I don't think Commander is necessary. He'd be Commander just for the sake of being big. I think he would end up being leader class. As far as like how many redecos, retools you'd get out of it, that's a really tricky one. So you might, well, see, the truth here is, if you see a Cybertron Jetfire, he probably is the retool, and he's probably a retool of the lug nut that's coming out. It'd be a weird proportionally, but I could see them retooling certain parts of it in order to like reuse, like the arms and wings especially. But I don't know, like there's only a few retools of that mold. There's only a few repaints of that mold. So to come up with like, they're not going to do something obscure like Sky Shadow, that's a little bit far for even for generations. I don't know. They usually don't do a mold unless they know they're going to get at least 3 uses out of it. So I'm sure they'd figure out something, but it's escaping me what it would be at the moment. If you started your own Transformers series, what extra steps would you take to drill into the minds of naysayers to make it clear and obvious to them that Transformers are living beings that happen to be robot-like, to shut up the crowd that are all robots can't feel love? It's funny, I don't really get that crowd. I've not really heard that crowd that didn't accept that like Transformers were living beings in their own fiction. I think we've kind of escaped that from this point. So my first thing would be to establish some kind of family dynamic. If I really want to drill it in my head, into the head of like, hey, these are the stakes and this is like the emotions going into the series. You introduce a Transformers fiction where family dynamics are an actual thing, like children, married couples, etc. And then you have the Decepticons attack a city and end up killing a family that we were focusing on for the first 3 minutes, just to drive it home the horror. When it sounds brutal, I'd let the kid get away. I'm not a monster. But yeah, I wouldn't make the stakes look very harrowing very quickly. If I was really gonna if you really specifically want me to drill it in, that's how you drill it in. You immediately make it relatable, and you immediately put the emotion very, very high. Do you prefer updated toys for characters that haven't had one in a while, or toys for characters that have never had one? So it really depends. Like, I don't think I have a preference to either. I think I more or less just enjoy, characters who haven't had a turn in a while finally getting one. But for the most part, it's weird. Like, normally I would say, yeah, like if they've never gotten a toy, absolutely give them a toy. But we're at the point where there's barely anyone left that hasn't gotten a toy. Like at this point, it's like, it's Arbalest. It's like, characters who aren't even bit characters, so background characters. Like we've gotten just about everybody. Like, I would like a new Cryotech and Sunstorm too. It amazes me we didn't get a repaint of that Transmetal Megatron. That's shocking to me. Cryotech seemed like it would have been obvious by now. Sunstorm, I think you are absolutely going to get from the new 86 mold. I'm just waiting on that one. Beta? Now that we have a younger Alpha Trion, yeah, I could go with having a beta. Do you think we will ever get a new Commander class Cybertron Optimus Prime anywhere near the quality of the Armada one we received? How do you think they'll handle doing Wing Saber? So when you say Armada, I'm going to assume you mean like the original Cybertron toy line. So here's the thing. I do believe it's going to happen. We know that Hasbro wants to do it. Takara has stated that they want to do it. It will happen eventually. They'll eventually do every Optimus Prime from the past because every Optimus Prime sells. It's when you say like quality of the original, it's not going to feel as solid. It's just not, because you just don't have the budget to make it as solid as it was in 2005. It's just a different time, and the budgets were a very different thing. But as far as like articulation, show accuracy, especially in proportions, that stuff will be improved. That stuff will look better. As far as Wing Saber goes, that is difficult. That's difficult because even a more minor character than like Armada Jetfire is like a star for half the series, and then Wing Saber just kind of feels like he gets introduced, and at that point he stops being a character and he's just a walking shirt for Optimus Prime. So I don't know. You'd have to leader class him minimum, or maybe commander class, depending on how like bulky you want to make that Wing Saber. Are you excited to see Gravity Anguirus in the Godzilla -0 movie? I actually didn't know any kind of Anguirus was showing up in the movie. I'm just excited to see another Godzilla minus, because like -1 was fantastic. So simple, quick answer there. Yeah, I'm just kind of excited for the movie in general. Why do some TF fans care about a Transformers proportions in robot mode, as we just stated? They're alien robots. Why not have massive forearms or a small head? They don't need to look humanoid. So the reason why is because a lot of fans like connect or relate more with a design that is more comfortable or more normal for them. Now, in a modern Transformers series, it's like not dependent on the original designs. I could absolutely see some of this working. And we've had this in the past, like we've had characters like X-Brawn who were very asymmetrical with his massive, punching arm. We have Crumple Zone from Cybertron, who is very gorilla proportioned. We have like variations here, and I don't really think I've heard any real backlash over that. Usually, if we're complaining about robot mode proportions, it's because they have an established character design in comic books or cartoons or movies, and the toy that they end up producing doesn't match them. That's really the only time I hear like an argument over like proportion. Like, no, they don't need to look humanoid. And in fact, I don't mind them deviating from humanoid designs. It gives us variety and it lets them do weird things that make for more interesting toys. You know, Onyx Prime, Centaur mode. That's different. That's interesting now. But yeah, I don't hear that all that often. Have you ever dyed plastic or know a customizer who has? I have a white transformer I want to try it with. I've seen people successfully dye Lego parts into different colors with clothing dye. So I have. Once upon a time, I tried to take an Energon Ironhide and I was customizing him into Trailbreaker. And this was actually really cool and actually like really close to actually happening. So I had all the parts blue dyed black, and yeah, I used RIT dye, but this was back when they had the original formula. They changed the formula now. Doesn't work as well. I know they're using something else these days, but I can't remember what it is. I do know Grimlockamus has dyed parts, but I don't remember how exactly he did it. But yes, I did dye the toy black. I was using blasphemy. I was using the Japanese version because his arms and legs were already gray, so I didn't have to paint those. The only thing that's, and I even modified it so that the shoulder gun from robot mode, I redid, I sanded down the hand into a hinge and I attached it there. So he had his gun hand with the existing parts from the toy, and it could actually hinge down to get out of the way for vehicle mode, so it didn't affect transformation. The only thing that stopped me was finding the appropriate head. So the only thing I remember finding was like there was like a knockoff for a while that had a very similar head to Trailbreaker that would have been about the right size, but I never got around to getting it. Keep in mind, this was long before 3D printing would have made the head and a trivial matter. So yeah, the parts are long gone, so that's never going to happen now. But yes, I have dyed parts. It stinks, and everything you use to make the parts, you know, a different color are going to be toxic, so don't use them for anything else but dyeing. If you could come up with a History of Optimus Prime 8-pack similar to the TMNT set, what 8 Optimus Prime figures would you choose? See, this is like creating an entire roster, right? The hard part with this is you couldn't do most of the Optimus Primes the way you could Leonardo's. All the Leonardo's are basically roughly the same size, so you can get away with releasing all of them in one pack. But the Optimus Primes are all over the place. So, okay, like I would do like the United toy-based Optimus Prime as the stand-in for the G1. I'd probably bring back the Reveal the Shield for the G2 in that size. If I could dig up the Armada Deluxe, but the last time they used that, there was some heavy mold degradation on it, so that might not be a viable choice. That one might not exist. Can I dig out the Deluxe Energon Optimus Prime that was only, you know, very weirdly released in America? There's no smaller Cybertron Optimus. There is no there's Deluxe Movie Optimus that they still sell at Universal Studios, so you could do that one. The more difficult thing here is like the molds that are older, they might not exist or they might not be able to be found because some of them are in such deep storage they haven't been used for decades at this point, so they might not even be possible to recover for this. But in a hypothetical situation, I'd try to stick to as many Deluxe Primes as there are. I can get away with that all the way through Prime and then into RID and Cyberverse. The only trick to this is Cybertron would have to be left out. I could do Prime. Okay, so yeah, it's mostly just stick to the Deluxe Primes. And then like only a few of them get left out, which I think that's an acceptable losses here. But I could absolutely do that if I had a little bit more time to think about it. What was your time in school like? Did you enjoy it? And would you say it was better than what it is like now? No. To give you a brief idea into my school life, I was the quiet kid that was picked on the whole time. I was really shy about a lot of things because of that, so I didn't really date much. I didn't really have a whole lot of friends. I was in with like the loner crowds, you know, so we kind of hung out to ourselves. I had a few good friends here and there that I counted on. But no, I really did not like my time in school. I really didn't. I much prefer now, where all this geek stuff that I was into then is now not only sought after in the right crowds, but also revered. This is respected where it used to be picked on. There you go. In your opinion, what is the most terrifying or scariest thing in a kid's cartoon? Probably season 1 of Velma. No, it's a cheap shot and it's not a kid's cartoon. Scariest thing in a kid's cartoon is subjective. I don't remember anything that I specifically identify as like scary to me or anything that like I found scary as a kid. I mean, like you had things like the real Ghostbusters that had really dark imagery. You had characters like Mum-Ra, who was scary enough that they had to tone down due to complaints from parents. I thought Mum-Ra was cool. Like I didn't think he was scary at all. Terrifying or scariest in a kid's cartoon. The truth here is I haven't seen enough kids cartoons to really boil that down. I know there are genuinely scary things, but offhand, I can't quite come up with anything that I thought was like genuinely scary. I guess like animation maybe just didn't like trigger any like fear from me. I really like your Machine Wars rewrite, but it makes me question why doesn't Transformers do more with dysmorphia or confused identity? Besides Punch and Counterpunch, you got Megaplex and Archforce being mentally mangled, while G2 Sureshot has a disorder make him think he's Optimus Prime. Martyr Complex and all. The drama is just right there. Because you get into controversial topics that Hasbro is going to try to avoid, but we have seen it. It has been done. Things like in IDW 1.0, for instance, you have transgendered characters like RC that, retconned into wanting to change genders. Simon Furman needs to never write women again. We've all universally agreed on that. But even then, you also have characters who were handled far more effectively in that, in Anode and Lug. You also have characters like, you have Acid Storm, who was Acid Storm in Cyberverse, I believe. Cyberverse? No, yes, it had to have been Cyberverse. Like who was accidentally, because of animation errors, accidentally gender fluid. But if you want like actual like dysmorphia, like body dysmorphia, IDW Starscream. Like that was the reason why the body on him kept changing, is because he never felt comfortable in it. And once he realized what his real body was going to be, he started becoming far more comfortable with himself. Like he had like a comfort anchor mentally from that point on in the books. So yeah, we've dealt with those topics before, but it's rare. I was just curious, has there been many times you had items come in through the store you work at and were missing accessories or pieces that are important to the figure, like Transformers or other action figures for that matter? So here's the truth, is that half the people trying to sell things to a store are just trying to unload junk that's just taking up space in a bin or a closet. And they're just looking for whatever. So yes, like you're going to get people in. It's like, I would really like to sell this, and like it's missing its legs. Things like that. Then it's rare when it's that extreme. I had one kid come in and almost like gleefully told me he didn't care about the accessories Transformers came with, so he just threw them all away. You had genuinely rare figures, like he had Combiner War Computron, and I only knew that he had Combiner War Computron because I spied 2 guns from him in the box. But the toys weren't there because he was either keeping those or already sold them to someone else. So, like, I had to, like, sit him down and go, like, hey, look, like, you just cost yourself hundreds of dollars. I would have given you hundreds more for these if they had their accessories. And he's just grinning the entire time as if he really didn't care. Like his loathing of the accessories was so great. He didn't even care that he was out money on it. And yeah, it's still like one of the most baffling encounters I've had at the store. Like, I don't know. It was super weird, but yes, like there have been people trying to sell us things that are missing a lot. We know a lot of the 84 cast didn't survive the 86 movie, but why didn't Sparkplug and Chip Chase appear in season 3? Mostly just because they wanted to like limit the human cast, because Carly became a regular when she was originally just like a guest character from time to time. Daniel was the main focus of the human side in season 3, on top of occasional other characters like Marissa Fairborn, who's, the more spacefaring human. So she's a little bit more up on what's going on in the universe. Basically, they just kind of got moved to the side. And which is a shame, because I think Chip Chase is one of the better humans in Transformers. You're one of my favorite YouTubers. I always find comfort watching your videos. I'm having a bad day or going through a lot. Keep up the good work. It does mean a lot to me that I can do that for you. Like I'm happy to provide a comfortable space. That makes me happy. Thank you for that. To put it lightly, you're not a big fan of clear plastic. Really? However, what is your experience with clear plastic on figures other than Transformers? Like some Marvel Legends or some NECA figures. They made multiple Predators out of clear plastic. Those seem to be still made out of clear plastic, but stand the test of time a bit better. So the difference here is the temper of the plastic. So a lot of action figures like that, Marvel Legends especially, the plastic will actually be just a little bit softer. And that softness that they add to that, like if do I have a Marvel Legend here I can demonstrate with? No, I don't. I have few Marvel Legends. They're all on the shelf over there. But there is a softness to the plastic. And that's because they are something that kids are more likely to grab. So, they make them a little bit soft so they can endure impacts more. But the benefit to that is because it's more malleable, bendable. It doesn't get fragile and brittle like clear plastic tends to do over time, so it lasts a lot longer. Now, it's the same reason that translucent plastic on Transformers, that is the soft rubbery kind, manages to survive a lot longer. The whole point with translucent plastic is it gets stiff and brittle as it ages, and it can't handle the stress it's put under anymore. Soft plastic doesn't have that issue. And a lot of the figures they're describing are made from a softer temper of plastic. As far as like clear plastic outside of Transformers, honestly, I really have not had any real issue with them. But then again, I don't really have a whole lot outside of Transformers. Like, I've got Kamen Rider gimmickry stuff that actually does hold up. On my double driver, when you open the driver, it hits 2 buttons on the noisemakers you plug into it, and it does so with clear levers. And to my surprise, those never broke. So sometimes it is a matter of material quality. Hasbro may or may not just be cheaping out on it. Okay, considering the state of the Transformers brand now, which of these two would be better outcome for the new, presumably Michael Bay directed movie? Either is somehow really well received critically but doesn't make a lot at the box office like Transformers 1, or does poorly with critics and audience, makes a lot of money to help finance the brand. You never want this to be you never want this to be a financial failure. Like, you can be well received like we've seen with Transformers 1, being well received critically and by fans does not get you anywhere in the corporate world. We want the brand to expand. We want it to have the budget it needs to have like really good toys. And the only way to get that is to have very successful branding, and in this case, successful movies. Unfortunately, I would rather have a bad movie that makes a ton of money, because that money helps the brand much more in the long run. I would love to have both. I would love to have a $1 billion movie that's also really, really good, but I don't think that's happening because we're bringing Bay back and Devon Ventura is still there. Do you prefer when Transformer stories take place on Earth, or when it mostly takes place in Cybertron with occasional stories that take place on Earth and other planets? My favorite answer to give: depends on the story you're telling. You can tell a really compelling story on Earth. You can tell a really compelling story on Cybertron. I don't really have a preference toward either one of those. Mostly. I think you create a stronger connection when you're on Earth and things are familiar. I think it can raise the stakes easier. When you're on Cybertron and exploring the universe, I think you have more story possibilities. I would rather have more story possibilities, though ultimately it does depend on the story you're telling. The Schedule Conflicts fan man finally is temporarily out of D&D questions because he got obsessed with Metal Cardbot. So have you heard anything about the widespread or not so widespread quality control issues out of Agabus Wave 1? Nope, you're the first one to tell me. Oh, thank you for the laugh. I'm trying to document everything, and the most common ones I've heard across are various levels of sloppy paint and mold flash across everyone, Black Hook having squeaky biceps, Shadow X unable to keep the rotors pegged in, and Heavy Iron having very tight shoulder kibble sliders. You have saved me so much money. Like, I really was like looking at the ones that, because I've got some of the original run of those, and I was kind of debating on grabbing a few more from Big Bad, Heavy Iron especially, and that just quelled that a little bit. I had not heard of that. It does now make sense how those American releases of those toys are a lot cheaper than we assumed they would be. If they are doing like a really cheap run of those toys without the quality control or the quality material that you would expect out of the Korean versions, that would make a lot of sense. That would make a lot of sense. That's really unfortunate. Metal Cardbot has such a good position right now because Transformers are kind of stagnant and frankly not that great at the moment, if I'm being completely honest. A new competitor moving in has all the opportunity in the world, just kind of sweep and go, look, here's how it's done. The fact that they blew it sucks for Metal Cardbot. I love Agabus failing because I don't like the people running that because it's the same people that ran Bakon into the ground. But that personal beef aside, it's unfortunate. Funny enough, Schedule Conflicts fan man, you're going to have more to talk about soon. And that's all I'm saying. Also, for someone who's getting into Metal Cardbot, you're going to have more to talk about soon from this channel. You will see. Here's a question. Since we know Hasbro is going to start doing IDW and Studio Series, what do you think the likelihood is to get us a Turmoil figure? It might be my favorite original IDW character, and I never see him get any love. I mean, I will be real. Offhand, I don't even remember who Turmoil is. So that will tell you, like, the depths of obscurity we're going to here. I will dignify this by doing a quick run to TF Wiki to get this back in my head. Ah, Big Brute Man. Big Brute Decepticon Man. That would be tricky. Like, I could absolutely see a few different molds out there that could produce a Turmoil. But, man, there's some obscurity there. Here's the problem. Is there such a list of hotly demanded designs from IDW that it is going to be a hot minute before they get to a character like Turmoil. You know, you're going to get Rodimus and Cyclonus and Tailgate and probably Ultra Magnus at some point, RC at some point. Autobot Megatron has to happen eventually. It's like that has to be an inevitability. Any more of the DJD, Hasbro knows there is demand for. It's not a matter of like likelihood, it's a matter of priority. So if Turmoil does see the light of day, it'll be because a mold that they produce tends to just work for him. You know, we got Flatline. You know, Flatline is a character who really shouldn't have gotten a toy, but a mold that came out happened to suit him, so he gets a toy. It's basically just Hope that someone matches Turmoil. What's a repaint or retool you like to see Hasbro might be uninterested or hesitate about making? I would love a Nemesis Prime repaint of Titan Star Optimus Prime, as the thought of Optimus battling a giant evil clone of himself sounds amazing, and the small hot rod can be turned into Blackjack. I think the easy answer here is going to be Omega Supreme. I would love to get that. I would love to get G2 Thunder. I'd love to get like Action Master Thundercracker out of the new mold. Like those super bright, overly done color schemes, I would love to get those. Now, that gets exceptionally difficult, not only because of the obscurity of the characters and general ugliness of them visually, but also because that's a lot of different mold colors and paint applications to make characters like that work. Both of those would make them nigh undoable at retail level. You might get an 86 Action Master Thundercracker if it is like a premium exclusive or an SDCC release, something of that nature. But like, I think those kind of like super obscure, super bright ones, I would love to see. Don't think they're ever going to. Do you see Legacy G1 Motormaster getting a reissue? Honestly, right now, they did a rerun of that figure once already, and then they did the 5-pack of the Stunticons. Honestly, right now, since they're struggling to even get the G2 version of the character out, I would go ahead and say probably not. I would really suggest, I know that Motormaster is extremely expensive on the aftermarket right now, but the level that you would have to go to repaint the G2 Motormaster, and keep in mind, combiners have a lot of scrape and connection points where the parts are going to clash together, that painting them in order to do that, painting up a G2 Motormaster in order to get that, is not going to look pretty. It's not going to look pretty, and it could potentially damage the other 4 figures that it's combining with. You are looking at an enormous workload in order to make it work, and even then it comes with a lot of risks. My suggestion would be to find a few figures you don't really care for anymore, sell them off for the extra scratch, and just bite the bullet on the Menasor. I really wish I could say for sure that they were going to rerun the original color scheme. I genuinely have no idea. Hasbro is completely unpredictable at this point. They could do literally anything again. Oh, that's a lot of comments. Ooh, that's a lot of comments. I go back and read the comments later because I need to try to keep it moving along here. Oh, that's the thing, the rule I never remember. Like, if you have a comment, mark it as a comment so we don't stop and read something that I can't answer. Would a full Bot Shots revival include show, game, and deep lore comics run into an era of profit, wealth, and prosperity like that? Wow, okay. Yeah, it's like the big Bot Shots fan coming back. The problem here is that we've done a test run of Bot Shots in the modern era, and it was the 2-pack that came out for Transformers 1. I know it was lame, but it was the full Bot Shots experience in one box, and it did not sell well, so I don't think you're ever going to see that. Bot Shots are fun, but I do not think a full deep dive into creating a brand new era of Bot Shots is going to work out. I am sorry. I'm going to say this. I know you want more, but honestly, be glad that it's finite, because I know you go obsessive over them. If it went on forever, you'd be bankrupt. Right now, it's a really nice, clean, it's a nice, clean collection. Let's see. Aside from that, I'm saying it every month. Love all your content. Keep up the amazing work. Screw the algorithm. Make as many non-transformers as you want, King. I would love to say, screw the algorithm. I'm going to do whatever I want. But the truth is, if I don't follow what the algorithm wants, I don't make money to pay my bills. Like, I genuinely need to do what the algorithm wants, or I literally can't afford my life. Okay? So I appreciate that. I really do. But I gotta have to work with the machine here. Like, if my Patreon were like consistently over 1,000 a month, or if this channel was at 100,000, yes, I would say screw the algorithm. I do what I want. But until I hit either of those milestones, I'm stuck doing what I'm doing. Have you read the most recent New Legends manga? What do you think about the Galaxy Force universe connecting multiverses throughout the system of space bridges? Honestly, no. I have not really seen or heard much of the New Legends manga. Honestly, that whole realm of Japanese fiction escapes me a lot unless something particularly weird pops up in the newsfeed of TFW. And I haven't really seen the New Legends manga do that. So, no, I have not seen it, unfortunately. Though I do like using the Galaxy Force universe. That's always nice. Let's see, if you could give the DJD rivals from an existing Autobot team, who would it be and why? So, the truth is, your existing rivals are either going to be the Wreckers, because it's supposed to be the Mayhem Attack Squad, but if we're being real here, the Mayhem Attack Squad is a very pale version of what the DJD is. The Mayhem Attack Squad is supposed to be what the DJD actually is. So, yeah, your genuine rivals would be the Wreckers. But it could also potentially be the Dinobots if we are going with the more brutal rogue version of the Dinobots that you normally see in comic books. Animation wise, no. Those are too goofy, too Autobot friendly. We need the rogue team that's more bounty hunter than Autobot. But yeah, it would be one of those two. It would be one of those two. See, did you hear the Owl House is getting a new graphic novel called The Long-Lived King? Are you going to get it? Absolutely, I'm going to get it. Absolutely, I am going to get it. I'm extremely excited to see that universe continue, get a little bit more story out of it. And I hope it's done. Really, I hope it is super successful to the point where Disney has no choice but to do more, which is even funnier considering Dana Terrace's current cartoon. Oh geez, Knights of Guinevere. It's hilarious to me that that's one big middle finger to Disney, and yet Disney, if this book is successful, is going to want to continue working with her. Fingers crossed. What is the headcanon for StarCon that you mentioned in your news video today? Today being the 12th of April. And I think we just mentioned it accidentally. The headcanon is that if Optimus Prime has to be the 13th Prime, and I don't like him being the 13th Prime, but if he has to be, then his power source, which I can, oh my god, why can I not remember? It's not even that late yet. My brain is already fried. I've been going all day. This day has been wild. Someone is going to comment in the question, but it's going to come to me at some point. But point being, the power source that brought back Optimus Prime during Battlestars, if that was actually the divinity that Optimus Prime cast off as one of the 13th to join mortal Transformers. So Star Convoy is not just the final upgrade of Optimus Prime, but it is Optimus Prime regaining his divinity and becoming one of the 13th again, with Atlas not even realizing that what he's holding in his hands is actually the thing that made Optimus Prime one of the demigods of the Transformer universe. It's bugging me. I'm in TF Wiki right now. But how fast can I read this? There's the fake Optimus Prime. There's Super Megatron. You know, see these. Zodiac. Oh my god. Couldn't think of Zodiac off the top of my head. But yeah, that's the headcanon. That's the headcanon. And that's what makes me like the idea of Optimus as the 13th, even if I don't actually like it. What character who has never been a Prime before would make a good Prime? depends on the fiction. Because there's a lot of characters that have shown some really strong leadership capabilities, or some characters like, there are fictions where Ultra Magnus would have made a good Prime. There's fictions where Ratchet would have made a really good Prime. There's fictions where Bumblebee would have been a really good Prime. But it's all just, like a matter of in the moment, those characters and those stories in the moment. You know who would have been a good Prime? And I can't believe I'm saying this, like end series Cheetor. Because at that point, you've seen his entire glow up and his grow up to the point where, yeah, like he is an exceptional leader figure. And with Primal gone at the end of Beast Machines, he would be the one to step up as the leader of the Maximals, or at the very least, like the leader of this new era of Maximals. And to a point, he did. He basically became that era's Alpha Trion if you follow certain fictions, but that's only because like that universe does not have primes anymore. But like a Cheetah's Prime, I think would have worked. I think he had earned that at that point. Over 5 seasons of character growth year, I believe he earned that one. If and when Hasbro does the Protectobots in the current combiner format, how do you think they will handle Groove? He has to be a Voyager scale figure to be Defensor's leg. So they did state that if and when they do the Protectobots, that Groove would not be shrunk. He would be the size of his compatriots. You are right. He is going to have to be some kind of Voyager class motorcycle transformer. We've kind of already established that. We have Sideways now. The problem is, by the time they get around to Defensor, the budgets could be completely different. And having a deluxe size toy at the Voyager class price point could be completely normal. And I hate saying that. There's this fear in me that we're seeing so many deluxe pluses as Voyagers now that that's just going to become the norm. And the smaller deluxes that we are getting in like the mini bot stuff at deluxe scale, I just got the Power Glide in, and Power Glide feels very small for a deluxe. He's a mini bot though. He's supposed to. But he also is not that much smaller than like Smokescreen from the same mold, from the same wave. So it gives me a little bit of concern. And we're just heading toward this era of very small toys for very big prices. We're probably not going to hit that by the time the Protectobots are around. That's just a fear in my head. I think Groove is just going to basically end up with all the extra weapon parts that are supposed to come with Defensor. Just for the sake of bulking him out. That's about the closest guess I could wager right now. Let's see. You have been taken hostage by the Decepticons, and Starscream points his null rays at you, asking for 5 things you like about him. Only after you satiate his ego, you are let go. Well, he's very egotistical, so first you compliment his looks. Very egotistical. You compliment his intelligence and his scientific knowledge, because people forget that Starscream's supposed to be a scientist, and that goes very underappreciated. I think he would really like someone actually pointing out how smart he is. Let's see. Oh God. I mean, you compliment his leadership skills, and how how well he commands the Seekers would show just how much better of a leader he would be than Megatron, obviously. Honestly, Starscream is so egotistical, I don't think I need more than those 3. I think those 3 in general would do it. Like, you could compliment other things, you can compliment his flight, you can compliment his voice, but really, like, those are the 3 major points. He looks good, he's very scientifically smart, and he's a way better leader than Megatron. And that's really all you need. That would satiate him all by itself. He'd probably still shoot me, let's be real. Who is my favorite GoBot? So that's hard. Character-wise, I genuinely don't know. Character-wise, probably Crasher. Probably. toy-wise, I've had some good Gobots come through. Like, I've actually learned to appreciate Gobots pretty good. Toy-wise, I still really like Chaos. Like, the one I grew up with, which is like Duocon done right. Like the stunt plane and like launcher truck mixed together. That one was, I always really loved that toy as a kid. I have that toy now. I still really like that toy. I had to go with that one. If we're going toy favorite. My name is Josiah, and hopefully I said that right this time too. My question will be talking about the Disney's Power Rangers reboot, and when it releases. I also wonder if Hasbro working with Disney on this helps with the RID 2001 rights problem. Also, in your Mirage video, you forgot Netflix Mirage and Happy May. Okay, I slipped one Mirage. It's such a weird thing. So they are like Hasbro already has license. Like, keep in mind, Hasbro and Disney already are licensing partners because of the Marvel brand. So there is already a relationship between them. It will be strengthened when Disney releases their Power Ranger reboot, but that may not necessarily mean like they're going to give up the rights to something, because the problem with the RID 2001 is that it's tied in to all of the Saban Vault. The entire licensing behind that is a complete nightmare. Because it's not just Power Rangers, it's a lot of anime stuffed in there. Like, a lot of the Fox Kids anime was also done by Saban. So a lot of it is just chaos. And it might not necessarily even be just Disney holding the rights to something. The music, like Saban was infamous for like poorly handling license of music, whether that is losing track of it or stealing it to profit on his own. Either way. So there's a lot more issues to it than maybe just like who currently like has possession of the show. But I would really like if like Hasbro and Disney would just get some ducks together so we can get RID back. It's weird that it's literally like the only Transformers series where I have no access to. Would you like Transformers to release a Love, Death, and Robots style anthology series, giving writers and animators a chance to create small stories that wouldn't fill a full series? So the thing is, I've never seen Love, Death, and Robots, but I understand the kind of anthology show that you are talking about. That's where we got a little brief Mega Man cartoon, which made me really happy. It's what Animatrix was. So we have, okay, so I'm rambling through examples. That would be really fun to do. I would love to see that personally, because there's so many different little stories you could tell in Transformers that way. Yeah, I'd go for that. I would go for that. Outside of Transformers, what are some Titanium Megatron level toys? That's a hard ask, because here's the thing. In order to know Titanium Megatron level toys in other toy brands, I would have to intentionally buy bad toys from other brands, which I do not do. I had the question for years of, will you ever do Plastic Addict episodes from things that aren't Transformers? And the answer is always no, because I don't want to spend a lot of money buying up a bunch of old toys that are really, really bad. And honestly, like, even when Plastic Addict was at the height of its popularity, I never would have made enough money to make back what it would have cost to get some of those figures that people call bad from other brands. Now, the only ones that could come to mind are Transformers adjacent. You had the Marvel-esque Transformers, the ones that Toy Biz did, where you have the Punisher transforming into a gun by having a barrel pop out of his crotch. So, you have that, and that one's kind of infamous, but really, that whole run of toys is pretty bad. I did the Ant-Man for one video. It wasn't pretty, and Ant-Man's one of the better ones. It would have to be along those lines. And mostly because, and that's really the only answer I have outside. Obviously, every toy line has some real stinkers. Every toy line has some really awful ones. I just don't know them because I'm not that deep into any other lines. If Hasbro gave Shadow Strip a name, why couldn't they do the same for the other G2 Stunticon repaints? I have asked that question myself. We have an entire video on this channel dedicated to giving identities to all of the G2 Stunticons as if they were new characters like Shadow Strip. They all have names that are adjacent to their G1 names, but they are not the Stunticons. They are the Pursuiticons. And I'm really happy with that concept, to the point where I really should put some thought into doing this with a different combiner team. Because we could do this with Protectobots. The other neglected G2 team. Combaticons might be weird. But yeah, like, I really think it was just like they had an idea and then abandoned that idea. I really think it's just a matter of like, well, we could potentially do this, but nah, we've changed my mind. All right. Do you think we'll ever see any official figures of the Quintesson prosecutors or scientists? Honestly, probably. Like I said, at this rate, Hasbro keeps saying that everything's on the table, and I genuinely believe that they are being honest with that. We're getting a Quintesson rerun soon, and I wouldn't be surprised. Well, we're getting a rerun of the Quintesson, and we're getting a rerun of the Alicon. So we know they're still in a Quintesson mindset. It wouldn't surprise me if they weren't willing to do some of the other designs. It's a matter of figuring out what to make them transform into. That's the trick. As you may have noticed, Kamen Rider series have something of a tradition. While just before the final arc, there's a comedic breather episode before the intensity of the build to the climax. Two examples are the cooking contest against the Dark Chef in Kabuto and the anniversary special tribute series, Grunts and Mooks and O's. Of these wacky Before the Storm episodes, do you have a particular favorite? I'll be honest with you, those episodes never really stick with me because they are just kind of like slice of life, like little breather episodes. No, I honestly, I can't think of any off the top of my head. It's just, they're nice to see, but they don't stick to my head in any way. So I can't really like give you an answer on that one. Since you love both of these franchises, would you prefer to have the powers of a Kamen Rider or the powers of a Mega Man incarnation? See, the trick to being a Mega Man incarnation is I don't have any other robots to kill for their powers. Now, if I'm preloaded with all the Robot Master abilities, maybe. But really, I don't think you beat the versatility of a Kamen Rider. Like, you look at like O's. Like, I have super speed, I can fly, I can swim and like breathe underwater, all based on like what metals I'm using at the time. I can throw electricity 2 different ways, and why they didn't ever use them both at the same time in the show, I will never know. I can duplicate myself as many times as it takes. Hey, the house cleaning just got done in 10 minutes. If the budget allows me to actually exist that way, I don't know. So yeah, it would definitely, it'd have to be the Kamen Rider. It would have to be the Kamen Rider. Officially completed 2 months of recruit training by the time you read this comment. Thank you for your support and encouragement while I am attending my military service. Really appreciate it and hope you are doing well as always. Keep up the amazing work. You keep up the amazing work. You are doing something I would never have the guts to do. Like, that is commendable. Thank you very much for doing it. Between Punch Counter Punch, Double Dealer, Savage Noble, Reverse Convoy, Rebirth Megatron, Sideways, and Shockwave Long Arm, who's the best at playing Among Us? Oh, it's absolutely Shockwave. Like, there's no question. Dude spent years fooling everybody as Long Arm. Dude got all the way up to the rank of Prime as Long Arm. There is nobody better at this. I mean, Reverse Convoy revealed himself in the front of the other Optimi, like 2 minutes after existing. He wasted no time in blowing that. Savage Noble's always sus. Double Dealer, I never know if I got caught or anything. He might actually be good at this. Punch Counter Punch has gotten caught in fiction, though. Punch Counter Punch has gotten caught in fiction. Punch Counter Punch forgets what side he's on. That's the problem. But no one was better at playing that game than Shockwave and Animated. Oh boy. Okay. Is this a question? Oh, yes, it is a question. Okay, so I am really going to discourage super long questions like this. I understand that you could have a lot of context needed to ask your question, but you absolutely have to keep it to a minimum because this is going to be a 2.5 hour, 3 hour video. I can't have massive questions like this taking up even more of the time. I'm taking up too much time explaining it. So I'm really going to ask people, like, when I say keep it short and simple, punchy questions, that's not this. Okay. Um, so let's, okay. So like, okay. So basically, like, it's someone who really likes a particular artist, who did a lot of good work in Gundam, like their Gundam work, but their Transformer work is spotty. Um, I mean, he's done bad works in Transformers, but like, I wouldn't call him an out of touch, talentless hack. I would say his priorities are wrong for the Transformer brand. Um, like, seriously, like, you don't need me to validate your feelings about the guy. Like, look at his body of work and judge for yourself. Like, no, I don't think his mixed track record with Transformers diminishes his work outside of Transformers, not by a long shot. You know? No, like, not even close. He's just a bad fit for the brand. That's it. You don't have to hate the guy just because he had a few misfires. You know, I can't, I have to I have to acknowledge, oh my god, I have been rambling all day, so my brain is soup. But like the writer of Agito, my favorite Common Writer series, um, I can like I can respect the work he did on my favorite show. I can respect the fact that he's made one of the most well-regarded Sentai series as well. Uh, Inoue just came to me. But he's had a bunch of misfires too. But I can still respect the work that he's done. And I do respect the work that he's done. So there you go. It Transformers hadn't arisen to challenge GoBots, would the latter have been successful enough to keep going? Absolutely. Like, we know from the 80s robot boom that, like, that was the perfect type of toy for that generation. And really, the only reason GoBots failed is because Transformers were just cooler. That's basically what it came down to. The cartoon was cooler and the toys were cooler. Simple as that. They would still be around. I genuinely feel like GoBots would still be a major thing, obviously, because Transformers is. Um, in your random review intros, there's occasionally a clear plastic combiner. What is the name of it? Do you still have it? So, there's toys in there I never had. I'll be honest with you. What you're seeing is the clear plastic combiner is it's the main mecha from Kira Major, like the Super Sentai series. It's all jewel based. And yeah, I hate how it looks and I hate how much clear plastic is in it. So I threw it in there just because I needed something that was clear plastic, very obviously clear plastic, and that ended up being the butt of the joke. My brother and I just started watching Agito. We all know you love gills, but what's your favorite piece of the G3 weapons and equipment system? I mean, I like the big Gatling gun, I'll be honest. I love it. It's like my big finisher is just I'm just gonna pull out this massive chain gun and shoot you 100 times. But that's with G3X. For normal G3, I love his little arm mounted blade, his arm sword, because I guarantee you he never hit anything with it. I watched that whole first part of that series. I don't think he connected with one swing of that sword. Not a single one. So I like that one ironically. What do you think of the legacy of the modern TF shows like Cyberverse and Earthspark be like a decade or when nostalgia is ready for them? I feel like yeah, I feel like Earthspark is just going to kind of get buried as just like a black sheep of the franchise. I think some really good things were done in Earthspark, and negative I think some really negative things contributed to that show not succeeding. But also the quality declining also really hurt that show. Cyberverse Cyberverse is kind of like this like darling in the franchise. You know, like a lot of people don't give it a chance, but the people who do are really, really into it. And I gave it a chance. It's not my usual type of Transformer series, but it's good. It's entertaining, you know, and like there's some really, really good stuff to be had. I think that one will be kind of like a cult classic amongst Transformer fans when it's time for nostalgia to take over. Unfortunately, I think Earthspark is just never really gonna ever pick up again. What do you think? You had one question, one chance to ask a question, and you do that. I appreciate the joke, but like now you gotta wait a month to get a proper question out. Oh boy. Going long again. If the name of the Beast Wars character Transmutate was ever reused as a moniker for a new subgroup of Cybertronians, what do you think their gimmick would be? Their gimmick, so to speak. Beast Machines hybrids, Beast Wars take on Rock Lords, type of Fusor, updated take on Beast Wars mutants. So okay, so this kind of borderlines on asking me to create an entire cast. Because you are asking me to create an entire subgroup of Cybertronians off the top of my head based on a single word. So this is exactly the type of question not to ask when I say please make it short, punchy questions. I really do not have an answer for this. This would take a lot more thought than what I can come up with off the top of my head. I apologize. But yeah, I would have to stew on that a little bit more. Because I'll tell you this, it wouldn't be an existing idea. It wouldn't just be Fusors, it wouldn't just be mutants, it would be something completely different. Which Transformer do you think would be a good fit for the Helliverse? Personality-wise, IDW Whirl. No question in my head. He's got the sadism for it. He's got the randomness for it. Absolute spot on. I don't think I have to even think on that one any harder. Do you think Broadside could become viable as a Titan if a series were written where he was used as a mobile headquarters for flying Autobots such as the Airbots, Powerglides, Jetfire? I think he would have to be a main character to get people on board with like an idea of a Broadside. He would basically have to be like the mobile base for the Transformers, the equivalent of the Ark. And I really think that's the only way you're actually going to establish that. Yeah, it'd be like one of those like Transformer, like the Autobots have an offshore base or something. They transform to the jet mode in order to fly to whatever emergency they're handling. And if the emergency is big enough, then Broadside transforms himself. Like, that would be the closest I could figure to like really incorporating him in. But yeah, like anything you do that actually makes Broadside popular as a character is going to help. Wow. I forgot that people might have posted some April Fools. Miniature model painting and the gold has the Golden Demon contest. Gunpla has a World Builders Cup. Should a TFCon hold a similar contest for Transformer customizers? I mean, I don't know why you would when Grimlockimus would win every year, but honestly, it would be a cool idea. You'd have to come up with a good prize. You know, coupon to a paint shop. You know, like a whole new like like a whole like box full of new brushes, something along that vein. But no, it would have been, yeah, like I wouldn't mind that though. I wouldn't mind a little bit more of like a competitive nature to it. Well, not so much competitive. It's like more like a show off. I almost like that it, now that I think of it, like I almost like that there isn't a competitive nature uh to like the customizing scene in Transformers. I think I'd want to keep it that way. So maybe the contest is a bad idea. I know why it doesn't exist, but do you think kids would ever have gone for a mail truck transformer if one was ever made? I mean, I don't know. I will be honest. I don't know how kids these days feel about mail trucks. I genuinely don't know. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the school bus thing, where it's like it's a vehicle every kid knows, but is it a vehicle kids even like? I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. In the age of the primes or whatever its successor is. So hey, this was 4 weeks ago. We know what the successor is. Um, let's see. Whatever its successor is, we're to do the Beast Machines Viacons, where the drones be sold at one size price point lower than the respective generals for the sake of army building, or more affordable option for the generals. Basically, if Jetstorm is a Voyager, Tankor Strike as leaders, and Thrust, Obsidian Deluxes, etc., would they all be one size smaller? No, because modern Transformers goes for on-screen accuracy, and on-screen accuracy dictates that all the drones would be the same size. What you would get would be most likely, like, because keep in mind, having those drones means automatic repaint fodder. You would have to change up their color hues a little bit so they wouldn't be entirely screen accurate, but they would be an easy way to remold Thrust, Tankor, Jetstorm. Keep in mind, you could probably come up with some kind of weird repaint for and like reuse of the mold for Tankor. You could absolutely come up with a reuse for Jetstorm. Thrust would be difficult. Obsidian would be difficult. So to have those options available of like, we'll just do their drones, they're not going to pass that up. The same way that, we had Scourge show up on the shelves and then Sweeps showed up later. And literally the only difference was a little bit of color hue and which hand was open. But no, they would absolutely be. Most likely what you would see would be like probably like a troop builder multi-pack, like a Target thing. For the very least for like the Voyagers and the Luxes. And then selects releases for Strika and Tankor's drones. Let's see. Would you like to see a potential deluxe class D16 come with a mining drill, like how A-level Optimus Prime comes with a saw? That's actually probably a really good way of doing that. I just don't know if they're going to tap Transformers 1 anymore now that the movie is like considered like a pretty big flop. I think that what we're getting right now is just the molds they committed themselves to, because when you look at the run sheet, like when you look at all like the 2026 and 27 leaks that we've gotten, there really isn't any Transformers 1 stuff beyond what we really knew. The stuff that like has come out, like the rest of the Seekers. I don't think we are going to see anything else Transformers 1, but I would like to have seen a D16 that had the drill. That's actually a good idea. Should Sunstorm be one of the new 86 molds or the Siege mold? I strongly believe the Siege mold is correct, since he's part of the welcoming committee. Plus, that would give us Siege Seekers in every color of the rainbow. Much as I kind of agree with that, but also I need Sunstorm to be in the form that we most associate him with. Same way the Fallen came out as the Dreamwave version. I need Sunstorm to be the Dreamwave version. Like, that's the one that needs to be released by now. And in that, I need the 86 Seeker mold. Like, I want the OG Sunstorm back, not just a yellow or like creamsicle Seeker. Wouldn't another problem also like his role in like the Rainmakers or the Welcoming Committee is always nebulous. Keep in mind the original Sunstorm was not created with them in mind. He is designed to be his own thing, and I'd rather him just be the 86 mold, honestly. Wouldn't another problem with the Omnibots be why would they do a red sports car named Overdrive when they can instead do the much better known Sideswipe? I mean, you could say the same thing about Sunstreaker. We have tons of sports car Bumblebees that are yellow, but we still do a Sunstreaker toy. Like, just because one exists doesn't mean it excludes every other iteration of like a red sports car. We multiply that many times over this point. Trax and Sideburn coexist on the store shelves once upon a time. We don't need we don't need to like split that up. Like, that's not an issue with the Omnibots, honestly. It really just does come down to camshaft being weirdly designed. Favorite version of Shockwave. So, I like a lot of versions of Shockwave. Shockwave's just a really cool character anytime you do him. I really like how big of a mastermind he was character-wise in IDW 1.0. Like, he literally manipulated the religion of his entire planet for millions of years just to get to one singular outcome. Kind of insane. And then beyond that, Animated was really good. Animated's toy is one of the best Shockwaves. Prime Shockwave is one of the best Shockwave toys. There's a lot of really good Shockwaves. I don't think I necessarily have a like spot on favorite version. Like, pin me down. I might say IDW. Maybe. Best Godzilla movie that's not original, Shin, or -1. That's going to be completely subjective after you remove those three. And the answer to that would be Godzilla and Megalon, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I am a sucker for Jet Jaguar. I like silly Showa era Godzilla. And that is peak silly Showa era Godzilla. I have fun with the super campy Godzilla. What was the most doomed ship that you were rooting for, i.e. a ship that didn't have a snowball's chance in heck, but you held out hope until the very end? I think it was in the Digimon realm where I preferred like Tai and Sora together and then Matt and Mimi together. And obviously that fell apart because it ended up being Matt and Sora. Which, okay, fine. We'll go with that. I mean, that's about as close as I can. I'll be honest, when I do ship, I will be frank with you, I'm usually very basic. I usually like the canon ships more than anything. But like, that's as close as the one as I could come to. Like, even in the new series of Digimon, like even in Tri, they were even like separating that out so they could like keep a triangle going. Even though like we saw the ending of Digimon season 2. We know what ended. We know who ended up with who. If Normal Universe Knockout is a stunning, serving, gay son of a glitch, would the Shattered Glass version be a junker car slob that doesn't care about his paint job? Probably yes. Probably yes. You didn't mention a change in the sexuality, which is correct. I don't think that would change. But I don't think he'd be a junker car. I just don't think he would care. Like, I don't think he would care about like how banged up he got. He'd still carry a lot of his dents and scratches and scuffs, and he'd just be like, I think he would be more action gung-ho. Like, where the other one is a little bit more like reserved and kind of like picks his fights. Because he's supposed to be like the medic on the Decepticon side. I think the difference is he'd probably be like a field medic and a lot more like combat ready. You know what he would be? he would be like, he would be the body man. Like the body man at the car shop who like is like immaculate at repairing everybody else's car, but drives a rusted up junker that needs so many fixes. I know that exists because my it's my dad who was like that. That was him. That was him. He could take any dent out of any car, but his car always had rust all the way around the quarter panels. He would be that one. He would be that one where like he's so concerned about doing his job right that he kind of lets his own repair jobs go by the wayside. Let's see. Just think for a moment. Do I have to? Who would you be without Hotshot? Don't take this the easy way out here. Give us the true answer. Ultimately, I think I'd still be me. Hotshot has been like my best legacy as just far as like my relationship with Transformers. But honestly, if it wasn't Hotshot, it would have been someone else. You know, like if I was being completely honest, Hotshot's not even the worst toy in Armada. He just happened to be a main character who ended up with a bad toy. And if I was really going along with that idea, there's so many bad Bumblebee toys out there. There really are. If it wasn't going to be Hotshot, it was going to be someone else that sparked my imagination. It's not the subject matter that made me. I made the subject matter. That's the difference. I would still be me. Taking Hotshot away doesn't take away TJOmega. It just doesn't. Why do you think Sideways gimmick redeems him from his lack of articulation, but Smokescreens doesn't? Because Sideways gimmick doesn't really interfere with his function otherwise, whereas Smokescreens heavily interferes with how he works. His gimmick, like the gimmick of like moving his arm around to move his head, means his head does not have articulation. Because he has to be, because he has this massive cannon crane arm, it's super heavy, it limits what you can even do, and even with big feet, the character is still very easy to topple over. It's a gimmick that prevents him from basic action figure stuff, whereas Sideways gimmick doesn't do that. Maybe it costs him articulation, but it doesn't prevent him from doing normal action figure things like remaining vertical, whereas Smokescreen tends to be very unstable. Just things like that. You know, it's not a matter of like the gimmick took away from his articulation. Like articulation on Smokescreen doesn't really matter. It's a matter of this gimmick is hindering the toy in its basic functionality. I've been getting back into Kamen Rider Double lately. You were the one who introduced me to it. Hey, I'm curious what your thoughts are on the modern premium toys, stuff like CSM 2.0 Double Driver 2.0 Gaia Memories, and CSM 2 T2 Memories. If you haven't kept up with it, I would recommend giving them a look because they have gotten so much more advanced from the originals. So honestly, like I know they have more sound effects, and I know ultimately they're more screen accurate, but honestly, the expense of those belts and the memories have really kept me away. I remember those Gaia Memories being way cheaper. Gaia Memory sets for like complete selection cost more than they did back in the day when they came with a weapon toy. It's kind of ludicrous, honestly, how expensive they are compared to what they used to be. I understand they're more complex. I understand they have more sound effects, but honestly, just like I don't see it. I would have to really, really love it. And I'd love Double, but not enough to make me go, I need the best Double could possibly be. Like, I really only felt that way for O's and Decade, because I loved the function of both of those belts more than I did Double, and that's saying something considering I used to own 200 Gaia Memories. But yeah, like, honestly, it's a matter of affordability. I just can't afford CSM these days. Just that's how it goes. I usually like have like one one good splurge a month when it comes to things like this. Catching up on a lot of Zet's toys was a splurge a month or two ago. This month's splurge was something different. And you'll see it on the channel soon enough. You've talked about Godzilla here and there, but any thoughts on Gamera? I absolutely love my Gamera. I'm gonna here you go. So I'm gonna reach over here, pull this out. So here we got a -1 Godzilla. Here that was on the desk. And if I look beside it, here is my Gamera from Revenge of Isis. Unfortunate name choice. And this is the finale. This is the final blow. The vanishing fist. Like that big magma claw that went into Isis to kill her. Or is it Iris? I'm just being really stupid right now. Let's go with Iris so it doesn't sound as bad. Even if it's wrong. So, you'll find a video where me and my friend Matt, the current Monstrosities guy on YouTube, we did big old Gamera blind boxes together. And this is the one he pulled. I pulled the Nightmare Gamera that he never had a copy of. So we still have these. He's gotten rid of a lot of his Gameras, but he still has this one. He better still have this one. So yeah, I do love me some Gamera. I do love me some Gamera. Got another, like I've got an X Plus Gamera toy. It's hanging on my wall. It's still in the packaging. It's kind of rare. But yeah, I do love me some Gamera. Have you ever delved into any of the blocky Transformer model kits? I recently got the Classic Class model kit of Optimus Prime from Transformers 1. Really fun build. I have somewhere back there. I have the Blockies Soundwave that they did. And yeah, it's a fantastic build and a really dead solid, good looking Soundwave. I really, really liked it. I do have a Transformers 1 Megatron I need to build. So I'm absolutely going to be going for that. They do make some really good stuff. All right. I've been following the channel since at least 2015. I don't think I've ever done that. Oh, thanks for sticking around this long. Always appreciated. Before getting to the question, though, I should say a fun fact. I've commented a question on every Q&A video since your second Q&A, I believe, and I've had my question answered every single time. And it is the one I'm currently commenting on where that streak was finally broken. As YouTube skipped my question. Oh no! Oh, that sucks. Yeah, you can see on the video, like I'm literally just scrolling down the comments section here. So if it doesn't show up, entirely YouTube's fault. I'm in a collab mood, so let me ask, out of all the TF collab figures that we've gotten so far, which of them would you pick for a possible second or third wave? I mean, you've named it right now. One of them would definitely be Monster Hunter. You want a Zenogre? I want a Brachydios. And I understand. Or a Brachydios, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I understand yours is far more likely than mine. Even though mine was a mascot monster, yours is more popular. So yours is far more likely. Jurassic Park, I think they've done fine. Like, we've already gotten 2 sets out of them. They were decent enough. Universal Monsters would be nice to actually go back and do a couple more. The Mummy, the Wolfman, the Creature. Invisible Man would be difficult. Just release Mirage. In the Universal Studios packaging. That would be funny. For ones that I would personally want, Ninja Turtles comes to mind. I really liked Party Wallop. I bought him 4 times. I really liked Party Wallop. But I would love to do Shredder from the Mutant module. I'd love to do like the Star Wars collab thing where like just give me a Technodrome that breaks down into like a bunch of foot soldiers and like Shredder and Krang. Give me April in the Channel 6 news van, like April and Casey doing like the Skids and Mudflap ice cream truck thing. Give me that. It's like You could do so many more things. There's so many vehicles in Ninja Turtles you could actually go with. Give me a turtle blimp. I don't know what you do with it, but give me a turtle blimp. Like, yeah, I would love that. What are your thoughts on the Rhino Transformers DVDs? Probably the worst release Transformers ever had. The whole idea, okay, for number one, they were using incomplete footage. Like, and granted, you would have to do a lot of heavy work to remaster all of the like complete tapes that we have and the broadcast versions that still exist. You would have a nightmare of a time trying to mesh them into perfect versions, or at least as close as we can come to perfect. But they were using incomplete ones, and I know because I remember scenes that were messed up in the Rhino versions. But what bothered me the most were all those added sound effects that Rhino claimed were always in there, but the sound mixing was so bad that we never heard them before. BS. Number one, we live in a digital age. We know they aren't in there because we've seen these digitally through VHS recordings, now with like other remasters that like other companies have done that didn't include those. Also, it doesn't matter if we didn't hear them in the old, we shouldn't hear them now. They were absolutely Rhino going back and like throwing their own sound effects into it, because a lot of those were absolutely modern sound effects. They sounded nothing like the rest of the sound library. So yeah, Rhino was full of it. And I'm always going to be frustrated with Rhino. Also, a remastering job that added more errors to the show that already has a lot of errors. Great. So with Toei doing Project Red, do you think a modernized Blue SWAT would be viable, or is it an obscure series? Granted, I'm not necessarily sure anymore. Like, I feel like Blue SWAT would go right in with like doing some of the other like police-based Metal Hero shows. You could absolutely work them in. You could absolutely work that in somewhere. Like they just turned like Jiraiya into a Gavon. They could work Blue SWAT in, I'm sure. With the coming Mario movie, it's already out now. How would you feel about Capcom announcing a Mega Man film since it's your favorite video game? Well, I mean, I would be over the moon. Like, absolutely, if Mega Man was getting some genuine attention, I would absolutely love that. Yeah, yeah, I would be nothing but excited. It would really depend on how it's delivered. Like, if you want Illumination to do it and they do as good a job of adapting Mega Man as did Mario, absolutely. Absolutely. Have you felt the daily upload hindered you from doing bigger projects? Would love to see you doing something like TF Jeopardy, but I know that's very time consuming. Yeah, admittedly, yes, sometimes the daily grind does keep me away from like bigger things I would like to do, but really what keeps me from doing that, like honestly, I'll be honest with you, the daily grind is not all that time consuming, but it's what I can do in the time I have between all the other things that I have to juggle. Now I'm juggling a streaming schedule on top of, 4 days a week at the toy shop, on top of family responsibilities. I keep pretty busy these days. So it's not a matter of like the daily grind is keeping me from it, but like the rest of life is keeping me from it, which has been why Plastic Addicts has been on hiatus for as long as it has. Like the time to write full scripts and do heavy editing just doesn't exist right now. But most of the daily stuff I can hammer out in a slideshow and coming off the top of my head. So it is a easier process, and the most time-consuming things are usually research and material gathering. The actual record and edit is all pretty streamlined at this point. It's been about 20 years since the debut of Transformers Classics, and we pretty much have a screen-accurate Transformers now. Do you think it's about time we revisit Classics in its original concept of old school characters, modern vehicles and designs? Absolutely. The big question in my head is, and this is going to be a video, maybe even like as soon as this weekend. But the question is, your favorite Transformer got a definitive version. Now what? Because what do you do now that you have a perfectly screen accurate Seeker mold? What do you do now that you have a completely screen accurate and very well done 86 Optimus Prime? What do? That you have a screen accurate Megatron that doesn't have to be a tank, that doesn't have to be a gun. You know, where do you go after you've perfected your designs? You have to get stylish again. And yeah, I would absolutely love to see like modernized Transformers. It's been way too long. We're still turning them into cars from the 80s. It was 40 years ago. Kids aren't going to know these cars anymore. If you make them contemporary cool cars, then you're onto something. You know, and you make Megatron into a Cybertruck so everyone loves shooting him. Things like that. I'm not advocating shooting actual Cybertrucks. This is purely toy-based. If there was a Sanrio Transformers collab, would you want that? It would be funny. It would be nice. I'm not sure how you would even blend them. I feel like you would have to be Sanrio characters just turning into like simple cutesy things. You know, like not necessarily like full-on Transformers or like Hello Kitty turns into Optimus Prime. I think that would be like a big mismatch. But like, think back to the Disney collab toys before we were calling them collaborative. Like, those were fine. Like, Mickey had like an Optimus Prime-esque transformation, but he turned into a cute little truck that had a driver's seat for Mickey. You know, Donald turned into a cute little Volkswagen Beetle that had a little driver's seat for him. That's great. That's all fun, and that's like cutesy, and that's what I would want out of a Sanrio collab. Something in that vein. Do you think Hasbro could sell mainline transforming toys at a lower cost if they came disassembled? Most are ball joints and mushroom pegs with a few screws anyway. Hasbro will have lower manufacturing costs, less packaging. We also get the model kit like fun assembly. So assembly is a chunk of the actual like cost behind a transformer. You could get them to sell lower if they were sold in parts, but then you risk a lot of them being assembled incorrectly. That would lead to like a lot of backlash against some of these toys. That leaves a lot of user error that could potentially damage or break the toys. It would be a very like tricky balance. You're not wrong. Cutting out the assembly cost would make them overall cheaper, but it is a silly it's kind of silly to think about. Also, it would be inconsistent. Like, you would have to have an entire line that was done in the exact same way, but that's not really possible. So like here, I've got Outback that I just picked up. Okay, shoulders ball jointed, but not the wrist. He has two mushroom pegs, but that's basically it. Like, everything else is hinged pins, things that, you know, like would have to be assembled to the factory. Ultimately, unless you entirely design a toy line from the ground up to have ball joints and mushroom pegs for just about everything, one, you would already save a lot of money just because you're not spending money on metal pin assembly. But also, like, you'd be cutting so much budget at that point, you wouldn't really need it. And that would really limit what you could do with Transformers if all of them had to be ball socket and mushroom peg only. And that's what you would have to do in order to actually make them done up the way you're suggesting. You know, you think so like 86 Optimus would be literally impossible that way. And really, like, a lot of these pieces, the amount of assembly that you would save is frankly negligible. You know, like, okay, like there's mushroom pegs on this guy, but like there's also so many pins and hinges and screws to him. Like, the idea of like, oh, he should come disassembled to save money. You'd be saving like $1 or $2 at the most, and it would just look really ugly to do. Like, I generally don't think it would save quite as much as you think. Let's see, who would win in a fight? Underbase powered Starscream or Unicron powered Energon Omega Optimus Supreme? Jeez. That's a lot of power scaling there. It's very hard to judge that power scale without any kind of like research here. Let's see. Yeah, you didn't make your question bulletproof. Haha, I remember that. So honestly, you'd probably be looking at maybe like a Unicron powered Energon Optimus Supreme. That'd probably be your more powerful of the two. But then again, this would be Unicron Trilogy Unicron, who isn't nearly as powerful as Mainline. So okay, maybe underbase after all. Maybe underbase after all. This is where like the power scaling gets so weird that I can't really definitively answer that one. The last vehicle toy you touch, whether it be a transform playhouse that becomes your daily driver on the next Q&A video. How inconvenienced are you until then? Including parking, refueling, and just going from A to B. Well, the last one I touched you literally just saw. It's the Swerve. It's a truck. I'm screwed on gas mileage. Trucks have terrible gas mileage. And also, I'm really uncomfortable driving trucks. Like, I drive a Mini Cooper. Like, I don't want to drive a big vehicle. I'm far more comfortable in a small vehicle. I feel like I can control and can maneuver easily. But yeah, this would be incredibly inconvenient. That said, I would take the storage capacity to take a few things down to the shop, namely like a big screen TV I don't use anymore. That'd be fun to have down there. Let's see. I know that they're cyborgs and not Cybertronians, but do you think the Gobots could work as a Cybertronian colony in the Transformers universe? Absolutely. You face the exact same problem as any of the others. So, like, the Gobots being so close to how they, like, the animation models being so close to how they looked as toys that it would run afoul of Bandai. That said, if you rework them enough to be independent Transformer characters who just have the same names, then yes, you could even adapt it to where they, like, are a race of Transformers that had to bond to organic beings on the planet to survive, or like a headmaster system where like the biological parts actually benefit them. You could play with the storyline enough to where they could still be cyborgs but also still work into the Transformer universe. Which Transformers character would take down Conquest from Invincible in a fight? I don't watch Invincible. All I know is Conquest is really, really, really powerful. For that, you're either probably looking at like Megatron with full access to a black hole, or antimatter Megatron from IDW. It would probably be that. It would probably be antimatter IDW Megatron. That would be like the closest I could think of to like a quick insta kill, which I think is what you would need with Conquest. I'm trying to just think of like supremely overpowered characters who Conquest wouldn't be able to beat, like alternity characters, for instance. What do you imagine a shattered glass version of Trypticon would be? That's curious. Really quick, just in case. Okay, I had to do just a quick little test just to see if there was a shattered glass Trypticon. So there is not. There is not. I do that because every now and then I stumble across something on TF Wiki and go, that's a shattered glass character? To the point where I need to start writing them down and do a whole video of like, these shattered glass characters existed and you never knew. I think it would be a character who spends most of his time in base mode because he would be like a scientific, like, more like a scientific testing facility. Like, I feel like you would exemplify him being more intelligent since he's very like primitive dumb. And it would be more like a pursuit of scientific advancement in the base mode. And then the T-Rex mode is mostly only in times of dire need or necessity. I think that's where you get. So like Trypticon basically just be like the internal voice of the research lab that's also kind of like guiding all the experiments. You know, if you're going to, like in this instance where I would make him incredibly smart. How do you think Hasbro get out Nexus Prime's frame, if they even do one? So we do know that they are going to be doing the frame. We know from the leak listings that have come out since then that we also have at least 2 of his components coming out in 2027. Do you think they'll be able to include Landquake? That would be up to retooling to decide if they can actually work the Brawl mold into the leg or do a completely new mold that's compatible with the Superion system. Either is a little bit iffy. I think what's going to happen is he's going to come out as a Selects Commander release or like an Amazon exclusive. He's going to have like a retooled and repainted Superion frame because his vehicle mode can combine with said frame. So he does need to do that. But I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a Nexus Prime with like some kind of different paint job, something to differentiate him from the original. But it's mostly just going to be like he's replacing Silverbolt in the Commander packaging to come with the frame. So you can use the current one to fill in your 13. And then if you want to skip it and later on, he's going to come back out. It's a good way for them to get another use out of 2 molds that they otherwise wouldn't get another usage out of. Let's see. But yeah, like there's a lot of ifs to it. But I can see where it will be done. I can see the path. Okay, so let's see. Do you think if Season 3 of the G1 introduced 3 new Dinobots like Scar, Paddles, and Slash, would they be in the same breath as the original 5? Most likely. I don't see why they would feel the need to like split up the team in any way. Like, oh, here they're in different colors or they're smarter. I think you just kind of do Dinobots the way you always did Dinobots when it came to like Season 3. Now, granted, the other Dinobots got next to no screen time in Season 3 because it was all about Grimlock, but should they have made more Dinobots? Yeah, I think they just would have been 3 more of the guys. 3 more in the group. Okay, question. I think my question got lost last month, so I'm going to repost it here. This is a question I remember answering. I apologize. Which combiner Gestalt would work as a multi-changer, i.e., instead of being a combination of several robots, they are one robot that has multiple alt modes. Easy mode. The alt modes just have to fit the original theme. Hard mode. They have to have the same alt modes as the original. Okay. Okay, so I'm not sure I even understand this one. So instead of being a combination of several robots, they are one robot that has multiple alt modes. So, like, which would work best? So, like, if I want Superion to be, like, what, a triple changer? So, like, I'm assuming what you're after here is for me to, like, figure out, like, which combiner would work as, like, an independent transformer. But also has multiple alt modes, almost like not even like multi-changer implies even more than triple changing. Your best bet on that one is probably going to be probably Devastator, and just have him like be different types of like construction vehicles. So you could have him as like just like a big construction platform, but also transform into something that's more along the like more suited for like perhaps like a combat form. So like he would be like a big tank, but he would also be able to like basically open up and like use all the Constructicon bits. Anything beyond that, like it's so hard to use any of the bots because they're all asymmetrical, which makes them like transforming really hard. You could get a jet out of a Superion. I don't know what else you would do with him. Like, I don't think any of them would work out of that, just based on the very nature of how combiners work. Like, making them into triple changers doesn't make sense when they have so many different parts scattered amongst them. Like, anything I would do to smooth that problem out, they wouldn't look like a combiner anywhere. They wouldn't have their like silhouette and their identity anymore. They would just be another robot who happens to triple change. Yeah, I'm not sure that works. I'm not sure it works. But yeah, like the closest I could come to is, yeah, probably a jet out of Superion, and God, he'd have to turn into something else. Like almost like I would have to go into like the realm of like vehicle modes for like Titans and Transformer bases, where it's like, well, it's kind of a rolling combat mode. Have I considered writing a Transformers X Godzilla crossover video? Not especially. Mostly because I'm not terribly up on my Godzilla, but also Godzilla is freakishly powerful, and to get a Transformer that would compete with him, not easy. Not easy in the least. I think that's a little bit above the Transformers pay grade. So, no, no, I've not really considered it. I've thought of other collab Transformer stuff, but not that. Let's see. Could Hasbro do real life size cassette TFs like the ones third parties so we'd have deluxe size Rumble and Frenzy? I mean, they could, but could you get, because you still have to factor in the fact that, yes, I know what you think, but you are wrong. Kids do still make up the majority of Transformer purchases. We know their strategy is, here's these kid-centric Transformer toys that are cheaper, more affordable, but still work like Transformers, or have gimmickry to them that keeps kids interested. And then here is the stuff for collectors, but we make sure it looks cool so kids will also want those. From someone who has spent 5 years working in a collector's toy shop, who's had a lot of kids come in and buy loose Transformers, yes, kids are still buying and playing with toys. And we have to acknowledge that, you know? So when you could Hasbro do life-size cassette Transformers? Absolutely. Would they? Never. Because you'd never be able to get a kid to buy what just kind of looks like a flat block as a Transformer. You'd have to have this as like a really weird specialty release thing. Question for TJ. Working at a toy store. I've had anyone bring any Furbies to the toy store? I have had people try to sell the store Furbies. And while there are collector circles for Furbies, it is one of those, it's up there with like, it's up there with Beanie Babies as like something that I will refuse to take in. If there were Titans that turned into famous monuments, which monuments would you want to see be made? Picks would be the Dom from Cologne, Germany, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and the Colosseum. See. If I give any monuments. I mean, the Great Pyramid of Giza is a great shout. That would be cool. In the same regard, the Sphinx, I think, would be a really, really cool one too. Man, like you pick the Colosseum, which I think would be really hard to turn into a Transformer. But my brain would be like the Parthenon. But even that would also be hard too. Anything that's like a ruin would be very difficult to transformerize. I'm trying to think of like monuments that aren't, you know, like, can we get an Eiffel Tower? Can we get an Eiffel Tower that we later retool into Tokyo Tower? There we go. There we go. You know what I would love to see here, like monuments that I would love to see? Any of those ancient pagodas that are still standing in Japan. That's a Transformer I would want. If you could have the whole Mecha Zord line of one season of Super Sentai or Power Rangers, which season would it be? Oh man, that's a good question. I've already got everything from the 2 toy lines I like the most. I already have everything. I have all of Bokenger, technically. I've got the American release of Die Voyager, which is the same mold as far as I know. And then I have last year I bit the bullet on all of the Go Onger mech. And it still bothers me because the seller lost a piece and his excuse for like a refund for the missing part was pathetic. But if I was breaking that up, if I was splitting off into any others, other ones that would be really good, Wild Force. There's so many combination options that you have across all the possible Wild Force toys, especially when you get into some of the more obscure and like limited edition ones. That would be really, really good. I love Geki Ranger and didn't grab any of its toys. That one would be a great one to get too, though there's not too many of them. There's not too many of those. Who else would be good? Who else would be good? There's a lot of good options there. I'm trying to leave off on like 3. Had all of Q Ranger. Don't need to revisit that one. Had most of Kyoryuger. Don't need to revisit that one. It would be another really fun one to have everything. Maybe Hurricaneger. Especially the black one. Oh my god. One of my friends, B's, like his holy grail toy is the black Hurricaneger set. It would kill him if he knew I had it. For the future of the Transformers, should the IP rely less on Optimus Prime, etc., with a new lineup to lure in a new generation of fans? I feel like you do need to keep the core around because that is the franchise. Like asking to do the Avengers without Iron Man and Captain America, it almost never works because it's nearly impossible to make it work. I can still remember the Marvel animated universe that died with Avengers United They Stand, which is an Avengers cartoon with no Captain America, no Iron Man, no Thor. Your core 3 are gone. It was crap. The cartoon is crap. So yeah, that would be I do think you need to at least keep Optimus around, but I do think you need to reinvent. Like if you're keeping around like the core 4 of Optimus, Bumblebee, Starscream, and Megatron, I think you need to do that, but I also think you need to reinvent them to be modern and let a new cast of characters grow around them. We almost had it with Earthspark. If the show hadn't started like really fouling up, and my legs are falling asleep. Excuse me while I reposition. Chair goblin that I tend to be. In a death battle between Trypticon and Godzilla, how long would it take to drain Trypticon's energon before Godzilla finishes it off? You have no idea. You have no idea how one-sided this is. You have no idea how one-sided this is. So, the truth is, Trypticon isn't actually all that big compared to Godzilla. I have done a little bit of the math to figure out like how viable this is. It's not. It's not even close. Like you're looking at one atomic breath and Trypticon is dead. Like there is like because I've looked at the charts because I was trying to scale Super Sentai Mecha with Transformers and that's wildly off. And I know like and granted there's different iterations of Godzilla. You know, if we're talking, like your standard old Godzilla, then Trypticon might be like nose to nose, but you're still not accounting for just how overwhelmingly powerful Godzilla's attacks are. Like Trypticon would not stand a chance. And then that's not even getting into things like Godzilla Earth, who would just step on Trypticon. It's not a matter of like how long would it take to drain Trypticon's energon. He's done on the first shot. That's just how that goes. Do you think we'll ever get the 13 Titans of the 13 Primes? There are no 13 Titans of the 13 Primes. I'm not even sure where you got that from. No. I mean, there's the Colony Titans from IDW, but we've gotten some of them already. And really, I don't even think we know all of them. I don't even think there's 13 of them, to be honest. Would it be possible for the Blockies or Yellow Park to make figures of the types of enemies based off of the PS2 Transformers or Armada Atari games? So you say, would it be possible? Of course it would be possible. Would it ever happen? Probably not. Those are incredibly obscure. Like, there are literally thousands of options ahead in line for either of those treatments. And I hate to make that, I hate to say that, but it really is true. Because, like, the video game, the PS2 Armada game is mostly forgotten at this point. No one would really touch it right now. You'd probably just be best waiting for, I don't know, you'd probably just be waiting for someone to 3D print it. Yeah, I don't think it would ever come out officially. Favorite mini-bot mold? That's a good question. Jeez, because now I have to like think over through the mini-bots. I have them all. Power Glide I always really liked because he was like weirdly well articulated for a 1985 Transformer. It was just fun having variety in the mini-bots with a jet in the mix. Cosmos is charming in his own right. One of the ones I liked surprisingly was Pipes, because I thought it would just be like a little head swap of like a season 1 mini bot like all the other season 3s. No, like there's like some actual like refiddling that makes him a little bit more interesting. So he was like surprisingly nice. Who's your favorite character in Zets so far? For me, it's Kurihaba. It's probably due to King Oger bias. I mean, it's hard to say. A little bit of caffeine to keep me up here. I have to wash it down because it got way warmer than I thought. Yeah. I mean, I almost want to say like Baku or Nem. I really like Nem's mystery story to her. I think she's a really fun, it's like female character for a Kamen Rider show. I like how much the actress gets to do because of all the different roles she has to fill in the dreams. That's fun to see. Yeah, so it's either Baku or Nem. But like, yeah, there's so much good in Zets. So much good in Zets. Which toy line makes a better crossover Transformers, G.I. Joe or Mask? Honestly, at this point, I'd probably say Mask. Not only because you don't have to scale the molds up ridiculously, you don't have to like dedicate yourself to super large Transformers like you did with G.I. Joe, but also because we tried G.I. Joe and it didn't work. They took the wrong approach. We've talked about that many times on this channel. I've got a whole video dedicated to it. I think at this point, Mask would be a better fit because you're mostly just coming up with like a small third alt mode for the vehicle node. Most Mask toys would be able to work into the Transformer, like almost Transmetal play pattern of just some things open up and there's your Mask mode, but it still transforms, you know. Absolutely get away with that. Would you be out for a Justice League-esque Transformers cartoon starring the 13? Honestly, probably not. And it's not because of like, it's largely because I think the 13's power scaling not only would make the show rather boring, like you'd have to come up with some like cosmic level threats every episode, but also I think the 13 work best when there's mystique to them. You know, when they're malleable, when they're not the stars, but they are just the influence behind certain characters and series. And their abilities are, you know, to make a quick pun, amalgamous. And you can just do whatever you need to do with them for the story, but they're also, like, the limits of them are actually unknown. Are they just the first 13 Transformers, or do they have this, like, near divinity to them? I think the 13 work best when you leave the mystery to them, and to make them stars of a show, I think would diminish them greatly. So that would be it. If you were to create your last meal, morbid. What would your dessert menu be? You could ask for anything in any quantity. The limit would be how much you could actually eat. So for me, it's hard to say. Like, it would be tempting to just have like a banana cream pie because I love banana, but also my favorite dessert right now is like Japanese taiyaki, the fish waffles with the red bean paste with some ice cream. Amazing. So it really, yeah, like I could name a few things here. I can name a few things. It would be one or the other. Why did you originally start YouTube, and when did it become a job? All right, so I've told the story before. It gets into uncomfortable territory, but we'll do a quick one here. So I started doing YouTube because I was between jobs when my grandmother started falling ill and needed 24-hour care. And my parents both worked full time, and they needed to keep the roof over my grandmother's head. So I didn't expect it to take as long as it did as far as a responsibility. But a few months into doing that, and I'm just going stir crazy because I'm stuck in the house. She doesn't need like constant care. She just needs someone to listen out for her. So I had all this free time to kill. There's only so many video games I can play. So I just kind of thought to myself, well, I'm seeing what the angry video game nerd is doing. Why don't I just kind of do that with toys? And that's, why can't I do that? I'm funny. I can learn how to edit a video. So I ended up doing that. So we started, we started doing Plastic Addict episode 1, which was Titanium Menosaur. And then we just kind of rolled on from there. We just very slowly build up the brand. The point where it became a job is difficult to pin down because I've always kind of counted on the money from it. The money just kind of fed the hobby for a long time. But like when it became a job is like, I think when I started the Patreon and that started taking off, and all of a sudden I had like enough income to where now this is like starting to pay bills. Things like that. I think that's the point where like this is now officially a career of some sort. Besides Cybertron or Earth, what planet from the G1 cartoon would you most like to spend an Earth week on? I mean, Paradron comes to mind. If I could just, enjoy paradise before it blows up for a week. Let's see. There was the gambling planet if you just wanted to have like weird Vegas fun for a while. A lot of the planets in G1 were very unpleasant places. Junk is a very unpleasant place. Char is a very unpleasant place. Quintessa, very unpleasant place. What is one misconception about Transformers that you once believed in only to be false? For me, when I was a kid, I always thought Hook was the leader of the Constructicons in G1 because, he forms ahead. I had that misconception for a long time as well. I had no idea it was Scrapper. So for me, I mean, I did have a few. It's hard for me to remember offhand, like which misconceptions I really held on to for a long time. I'm trying to think now I really have to think about where that would have ended. Because I think in my head I was like, I always kept this straight. I always kept this together. I knew what I was talking about this whole time. But I will admit to the one with Hook. I did think Hook was the leader. I think I also thought Kickback was the leader of the Insecticons. And to this day, I'm not even sure if he is or not now that I think about it. Because I tend to think Bombshell is the leader. So maybe I have a misconception now. Maybe there is no leader. I can't remember. Can't remember offhand. Oh, there had to be some others. Oh, there had to be some others I kept. Like, I'm trying to think back to the episodes I saw a lot as a kid and going like, what did I carry on? What did I carry with me into adulthood? Like, it took the internet to correct. Honestly, I can't remember which ones. I mean, if we're getting into the larger scale, it took adulthood for me to learn that diecast did not, in fact, make the toys better. It made them more breakable. Because when you drop a toy, the plastic flexes, the metal does not. So when the metal doesn't give when the plastic wants to, the plastic breaks. Which is why getting rid of the diecast is a good thing. But yeah, that's about as close as I can come. But I will admit to the hook one. I did that too. What one positive lesson would Hasbro Takara could learn from third-party Transformers? I think the lesson that they could potentially learn is that not everything has to be Generation 1. Third party kind of showed that there is demand and popularity and success for designs outside of just the usual stuff. They're the ones who pioneered IDW toys, the first ones to give us a brand new Optimus Prime from Armada. You know, they gave us Cybertron Starscream, and I wish that toy hadn't failed because I really wanted that black repaint. I'm never getting that black repaint. But yeah, I think that's the key. I think that is like the nice little like butter zone here. Is like, I think like it doesn't have to be G1. That like you can go into like the more obscure designs and it still works. If you had to pick a show maximal from Beast Wars to make into a Mega Man X Maverick outside of Dinobot, who would you choose and what name would you give them? I have to turn a Beast Wars Transformer into oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. What could it be? What could it be? See, now you got me coming up with an entire Mega Man X character off the top of my head, which is not good. It's not good. I mean, we had a rhino already. Can't do that. We've had a lot of birds, so I don't want to do a falcon. We had an ant. We had Burn T-Rex. Can't use him. We never had a scorpion. My fan-made Maverick was always a character named Shock Scorpion. But that doesn't fit Scorponok. That does not fit Scorponok. Though I do think Scorponok comes as close to like a Maverick that we wouldn't have. I mean, you would... like it would probably be like Toxic Scorpion. Or, or it'd have to be like Sting Scorpion. Something along that vein. But I think that's probably the best as far as like, because outside of that it'd be like we've done Spider, we've done a Wasp, we it's basically I'm basically down to picking like Rat Trap, Pterosaur, Scorponok. And I think Scorponok is gonna work best there. That would be the answer. We'll do Sting Scorpion. What Transformer character do you want to get a Transformers The Basic video? I guess that's it. That's if you watch his channel at least here and there. So the truth is, I usually don't watch any other Transformer content creators, so I can't really answer that for sure. I mean, also in particular because like Transformers The Basics is like a pretty like go-to standard for like someone who's well versed in a fandom and wants to educate other people. I would like to do more character biography stuff like I did with Black Arachnia once upon a time. But, Transformers the Basics kind of covers all of that. So on the off chance I do biography episodes like that, I don't really want the basics in my head because I don't want to accidentally plagiarize it. I want to take my own approach and use my own words and not accidentally let like Chris's stuff feed into mine. Do you think Hasbro or Takara would ever make hug players? Like a wholesome, innocent toy line whose joke is that it's anti-kiss players. Funny. I don't think they ever would, but that's a funny idea. What other franchises would you like to see Skybound tackle in a similar manner to Transformers? The Skybound's getting a little bit dicey now. Like the reliability is starting to lack a little bit, but we're getting a lot of it. Like they're already doing G.I. Joe. Mask is on the way next. Like in my head, I would keep it to like the Hasbro brands, and in that sense, I've already got the ones that I want out of them. It would be cool to see them tackle something like Visionaries, because from the guy who was writing the show, because I was talking to him at TFCon in California, he kind of admits it's a really silly idea created for the sake of a toy gimmick. So coming up with the characters and the story was ridiculous. So like Visionaries would be a great one to do, just to kind of like to have like a magical side of that universe, but also to get better writers to actually take the concept on and see what they can do with it. What do you think of the original Bakugan anime and its tie-in video games? Never watched or played them. Bakugan, unfortunately, never really caught my interest, so unfortunately I cannot answer you there. What do you think of Primus and the Guiding Hand in IDW? Do you like it, hate it, think they're just okay? I will be honest here. I don't remember the Guiding Hand all that well. The only thing I really comment on is how they treated Primus, where you almost have this like proxy Primus that transforms from the planet, but the actual Primus is just Rung, the psychologist. I do like the twist. I like the twist in that like the Transformers universe is not as like widespread or sprawling as you thought. Like it turns out like, yeah, the gods are just kind of here among us. I don't know. Like I thought it was a fun twist, and like Rung was already a fascinating character, but like that added twist I think really makes him really memorable, ironically. Yeah, so I liked that one. Was the guiding hand the Functionists in the alternate universe? Is that what I'm thinking of now? Because those were creepy. I like those villains. Those worked. Oh, those worked. Who's your favorite Blitzwing and why is it Blitzwing? My favorite Blitzwing is Blitzwing because Blitzwing. If you want actual answers, it's the G1 cartoon because of the end of Five Faces of Darkness that left him ambiguous as a rogue Decepticon who became heroic. But also, if we're talking toy, I feel like the most playable toy for him is the Titans Return. I'm designing some realistic Maximals. Cool. Good luck to you. Would you paint Kranix blue and orange just to hear Dr. Doofenshmirtz say, metal platypus? Kranix the metal platypus. Be funny. I'd have to find a hat that's the right size for Kranix, though. That's the tricky part. Tarn arrives on Earth during Beast Wars and has to take on a beast mode. What beast mode are you choosing for him? Something equivalent to a tank, but also something that's terrifying. My instinct would be a hippo. Because hippos are freaking scary. Hippos have a higher kill count than anything else you could run into in the wild. Yeah, they are crazy dangerous. And yeah, like if I'm gonna go with his like audio powers, something with a really big mouth and that can bellow makes sense to me too. Yeah, let's go with that. It's a weird one, but let's go with that. Who's your favorite Optimus Prime and Megatron voice? Okay, well that's cheating. That's cheating. It has to be Peter Cullen and Frank Welker. Like they're just iconic. They fit the characters perfectly. I love the inspiration behind because like you understand. Peter Cullen had a very pure and genuine origin point for the voice of Optimus Prime. The inspiration from his brother who served as a soldier who told him, have the strength to be gentle, be strong enough to be gentle. And that gives Optimus Prime such a depth and purpose to his voice. Everyone else just is trying to do an Optimus Prime voice because that's what the director tells them to do. So, in that regard, yeah, like Optimus Prime, that's the reason why the original voice just rings so much purer because it comes from such a genuine place. And the Megatron is just Frank Welker. Like you can't Frank is literally the greatest voice actor alive today. I would call him the greatest voice actor of all time if Mel Blanc hadn't existed. So yeah, you can't really beat those two for me. And finishing it off around the 2.5 hour mark. I actually thought it would go on a little bit longer. My voice thanks you. If you were contracted to design retools for Legacy, Scraphook, Crashbar, and Trashmaster, what would they be? My picks would be Clench, Laser Cycle Soundwave, and Sizzle. I mean, we still haven't gotten the Laser Cycle Soundwave. We got the Jazz, but we never got the Soundwave, so that wouldn't be too bad. Like, honestly, like, I'm not even sure I would go for, like, Legacy characters. Because those designs are so out there. I almost feel like I would go the route of like seeing if I could license Mad Max and just do like a 3-pack collaborative of them. I almost feel like that would be a more interesting direction for them. Yeah, but again, that to give you like a referential answer of like it should be this character, this character, this character from Transformer history. That would take some research, but offhand, I think I would have more fun if you leaned into like the Mad Max nature by making it as literal as possible. And that, provided I have not missed anyone, thanks to YouTube skipping the questions, is going to be the Q&A for the month. So thank you everyone for pitching in and leaving a question. If you have a question of your own, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Follow the rules in the pinned post, please. And I am, as usual, going to go get something very, very cold to drink. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.